work session.
We are recording now.
Okay, so I only have the council time agenda, assuming we start with the August 18th work session, and I have the Clark County Transportation Improvement Program in my hand. Is that what Oliver's team is going to begin with?
The first work session is on the Columbia River Gorge National Scenic Area Ordinance updates, and then we'll go into the tip after that. I believe Oliver and Mike are here from Community Planning to present this work session.
Okay, Oliver, take it away. Good morning.
Good morning, councillors. For the record, Oliver Jacko, Community Planning Director, and with me is Michael Salas, who is our lead staff on this project. I will just provide a very quick background, and then I'll turn it over to Mike to go over the discussion with council this morning. Councillors, you may recall that update of Title 4240, which is the code, county code that implements development regulation in the Gorge. You approved, or you directed that be undertaken by community planning when you approved our 2021 work program. And the Gorge Commission have been working on the second update of the National Scenic Area Management Plan. And that plan was completed in October of 2020. The review and approval of that update by the Secretary of the Interior as well as the Secretary of Agriculture concluded in early 2021. And they transmitted, upon that approval by the Secretary of State and Secretary of Interior, the Gorge Commission staff transmitted the updated plan to Clark County, and we have 270 days to update our code to be consistent with the revised management plan. Now, what will happen is after we updated our code, the county must then submit the amendments to the Gorge Commission to determine that the amendments are consistent with the management plan, and then that will also be sent to the Secretary of State, Secretary of Agriculture for concurrency. Since the Gorge Commission have been going through the update of the plan, they have had a series of work sessions, meetings. I think I would say 160 in total. The council is aware that the National Scenic Area covers a portion of 6 counties: Clark, Skamania, Criticad in Washington, and Multnomah, Hood River, and Wasco counties in Oregon. As is the case with the National Scenic Area Act and the Growth Management Act, we, the county, are supposed to, not supposed to, but mandated to update our code to be consistent with the management plan. And the reason for that is that we signed a compact, that is Oregon and Washington and the 6 counties, to treat the scenic area as a single region or as a single area. If I may, the real focus of the National Scenic Area Act is to establish a national scenic area to protect and provide for the enhancement of the scenic, cultural, recreational, and national resource of the Columbia River Gorge. And 2, to protect and support the economy of the Columbia River Gorge area by encouraging growth to occur in existing urban areas and by allowing future economic development in a manner that is also consistent with the National Scenic Area Act. When the act was approved, Congress directed the Gorge Commission to review or to update the plan no sooner than 5 years, but at least every 10 years to determine whether it should be revised or updated. And this is the second update of the scenic area management plan. So with that, I will turn it over to Mike Salas to go over the process that we're going to follow and what is it that we're really going to be doing as we update our code to be consistent with the Management Act. And then we are here to answer questions. I believe we have our legal counsel, Chris Cook, as well as Taylor, who may also be available to answer questions. But we are really mandated to follow the Act. There are some areas where we what they call variations, but the variation doesn't really give us a good latitude to deviate from the Act, so long as we don't usually say we want our own code to be more restrictive, but where there is variation, we'll work with the Gorge Commission to address those. But by and large, our code is supposed to be consistent with the Management Act. With that, I'll turn it over to Mike, unless you have questions for me, councillors. Mike, take it away.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you, Oliver. Just to let you guys know, I'm Mike Salas. This is sort of my first work session. Although I've been with the county a little bit over a year and a half, it's been mostly COVID related. And so it's good to see other people's faces. I wanted just to give you a quick background of where we're headed with regards to the Columbia River Gorge and the updates that's needed for the management plan. So we're going to go through sort of a quick background and then talk about the ordinance updates, sort of an overview of those. We'll also look at the related codes for Clark County, and then we'll have a couple of questions. And the questions that we have to do with the type of public involvement options that we have available and where you would like to take it. And then we have questions after that, sort of like next steps. Next slide. So just a quick background, the Columbia River Gorge Commission was established in 1987 by the states of Oregon and Washington. The Commission's mission is to establish, implement, and enforce policies and programs to protect the National Scenic Area. In 1991, the Gorge Commission and the Forest Service adopted a management plan which helps keep consistent standards and regulations within the Gorge Scenic Area and under Clark County Code 4240. The other part of that is to let you know the last update of the management plan overall was in 2005. Next slide. This is the area in its entirety, and you can tell that on the Washington side, it's approximately a little bit more than 169,000 acres. And on the Oregon side, it's approximately a little bit more than 123,000 acres. And you can tell that the Clark County section is a little bit less than 8,000 acres in size. Next slide. Here's the area that's in Clark County that's within the scenic area for the gorge. And as you can tell, to the west is the city of Washougal, and to the east is Skamania County, and you can see the Columbia River Gorge to the south there. And again, the size of what we're dealing with, which is relatively small, is less than 8,000 acres in size. Do you guys have any questions?
Councillors, the only thing I will add here is that in our coordination with the city of Washougal as they do their plan update and on the GMA, you can see that they cannot expand to the east. So they have only option of expanding to the north. Just want to throw that out there. That's why they cannot expand to the east. Go on, Mike.
Okay, next slide. So on October 13th of last year, the Gorge Commission adopted revisions to the management plan as part of their 3-year update inside the 5 to 10 year time frame that they had to make their updates. The Gorge Commission focused on updates to increase protections in the scenic and natural resource chapters, as well as the economic development, land use, urban area boundary revisions, and the recreational chapters. And then the other part of this, the county adopts the revisions of the revisions is mandatory under the National Scenic Area Act of 1986, which protects the Columbia River Gorge Scenic Area, along with RCW 4397015. And that's part of the Columbia River Gorge Compact. Now, variations are allowed as we have greater protections for gorge resources, which means that if we have policies or regulations that are more stringent than what's in the plan, then those are usually allowed. Next slide. The last, I think you might have gone one too far. Oh, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. You're good. The county has 270 days, as Oliver indicated, from February 27th of this year to December 21st of 2021. The ordinance amendments go into effect after the Gorge Commission and the Secretary of Agriculture and Forest Service concur with the amendments and make sure that they're consistent with the management plan. Next slide. We're still working on this, but these are some of the updates that we know that we have in our code that will affect what we do and how we do it within the Gorge area. And so these are some of the changes identified with the code that we have on the books to show where they're indicated within Clark County. Go on to the next slide. This is just a continuance of those same updates. There's 7 altogether at this point, and we're still hashing out to see if there's other things that need to go into the code from the Gorge Commission as we speak. Next slide. These are the questions that we have for you, and this has to do with the public participation portion, whereas our normal option, which is option 1, is basically we have a project on our webpage. We go through SEPA. We have the Planning Commission work session and public hearing, and then we have a County Council work session and public hearing. The option 2 is to do everything in option 1 and include a virtual public meeting to provide information to, on those changes and answer any questions. And like Oliver mentioned, the Gorge did do 160 public meetings throughout the Gorge area to allow for question and answers as well. The other part of this that we wanted to ask is, would you prefer another work session prior to the December 6th public hearing, just to make sure that if there's any updates or changes, or if there's just to refresh what's going on between the time that we have this one and the December public hearing. And then I think the last one, go ahead and go to the last question, or last slide. The last slide just shows these 2 areas in red that shows the virtual public meeting timeframe will be sometime in September, and also the work session and the flow of where that fits within the timeframe. And I think that's my last one. I think I have one more slide. And so, yeah, we'll open up to comments and questions and go from there.
Thank you, Michael. I have a couple of questions right off the bat. So I'll start with a comment first. I do prefer your option 2 to have that open question and answer period added on to all the other public outreach outlined in option 1. My question is, we have a lot of counties. We only have a small portion of the Gorge protected area. What coordination occurs with the other counties, both north and south of the river during this process? I mean, do we know what the other counties are working on, what changes they're looking at? Some of these definitional changes, what kind of coordination is ongoing so that we are acting conformity as much as we can with other counties?
Well, we have a planning meeting with other counties, all the other counties that are in the scenic area. And so we have one of those at least once a month where we talk to the other planners with regards to the changes that affect their counties as well as ours. The other thing is the Gorge Commission has an executive meeting that we're all invited to. And so they have one of those once a month as well to kind of go through any type of small changes or just to get a sense of what's going on, if there's any changes that are needed, and if not, just other business and things that are going on with the Gorge Management Plan itself. Not everything that's identified in the substantive changes fall within not only Clark County, but the other counties. And what I mean by that, the example that they gave was they have a climate change chapter that's going to be put into their management plan at some point, but they're working on that, and it doesn't affect any of the counties that are within the Gorge. This is something administratively done for them, but they put it in here so that they can collect that information because they're still under the same timeline that we are with the 270 days. So they have to make those changes as well as the ones that we need to make for our county.
Okay, thank you, Michael. So the only other follow-on and the other question that you had asked, if I don't feel like I personally would need an additional work study, hearing, unless there are significant changes that are identified. And if you find out other counties are doing or considering other changes that are different from ours, I mean, I'd kind of like to know that if there are other movements in other counties that could possibly impact our plan. But in the absence of any real different direction by other counties, I just don't feel like I would need another work session. But I'm going to open it up to the other counselors.
Councillors, if I may, this is Sullivan, not to interrupt, but the reason we ask this question is that this work session, if we were to occur, would only occur after the Planning Commission hearing, so that you would then be prepared for your own hearing after the Planning Commission have gone through their own processes and public hearings, so that you know what is coming before you. That's the only reason we ask for another work session with Council to brief you on the recommendation of the Planning Commission and subsequent questions you may have before your hearing. So if the Council want us to have another one after the Planning Commission hearing, we recommend that. If the Council doesn't want to, we can do it in two ways. One is we continue to update the Council on the changes that are going before the Planning Commission. And then if you desire to have a work session after the PC hearing, we will come back to you and say, here's what the Planning Commission did. And we will follow through our normal process, going to DEEP and any other entities that wants to see the revisions. Typically, we planning department don't review development regulations that are in the Gorge. That is done by community development staff, and we will be bringing them along with us to see the changes that are being made. As Mike answered your last question, we have been attending meetings throughout the process with our other county partners, asking the same questions, getting similar answers. So we are checking in on what other counties are doing and how they're looking at the same update, trying to see how that fits in with their own interpretation of the changes. So we're all on board, if I may say so.
Okay, so thank you, Oliver. And so I may have missed that from your presentation, that you were actually recommending another work session following the Planning Commission outcome. So I would reverse that, and certainly it could only end up being a very quick session if there are no surprises. But so I would want another work session following the Planning Commission, as you're now recommending. Other councilors?
Councilor Vigi, I have a couple of comments and then one question, if I may.
Please.
First, I also agree with option 2, having that public opportunity, because this is a topic on which the public really cares deeply. So I think it's important to do that. As for the timing of that, it's very close to the Planning Commission work session. I don't know if there could be some overlap in terms of time there that could also inform the work session. But anyway, that's for someone else to decide. But just a thought. I do like the idea that you have proposed of another council work session, but not just for the Planning Commission's input, but also for other counties' input. If there has been anything that they're going to do or not going to do, I would definitely like to see that included as well. My question deals with economic development, which you've mentioned a couple of times. I'm interested in the economic development that is in the Clark County portion of this project. You mentioned some produce stands, you mentioned some cideries. Are they in the Clark County area? And what other economic development is there that you envision either happening in the future or that's there now?
I will answer that question, Councillor, this way. The economic development is meant to occur in existing urban growth areas that may be in the Gorge, and this is throughout the areas that are affected in the Gorge, not just Clark County. In the case of Clark County, there appears not to be any urban areas. For example, Washugo urban areas does not extend to the Gorge boundary. However, there are opportunities for agricultural practices or agricultural farming in the Gorge as a form of economic development, if you will. The way that the management scenic area is at also is that urban areas are the focus of future growth and economic development, particularly when you get into some of the counties that are heavily affected, like Hood River and the Dalles and other areas. And that is how, just like I mentioned earlier, the entire 6 counties are treated as one region or as one area. So we may not have an urban area that is impacted in the gorge, but those areas where that is the case, they are allowed for future economic development within the urban area. But inside the gorge itself, they allow farming and other practices associated with farming to also promote the growth of farming, if you will, within the gorge as a form of economic development, an opportunity for the property owners to continue to farm and use their property. So that's how that is treated within the plan.
Interesting. So just a quick follow-up. You talk about the opportunities for economic development. Is that to say that there is none in the Clark County portion of the scenic area now, or no plans for that now?
Again, the way that the entire scenic area is treated is that those counties that has their urban area within the gorge, like I said, the Dalles or Hood River, they are allowed to, even though they're exempt from some of the stringent regulations in the scenic area, they are allowed to for some economic development. If their property is zoned for commercial, that should be allowed to develop as commercial. If it's zoned industrial, that should be allowed to develop as industrial. But we don't have that in the area that is in the county. The only urban growth boundary that appears to be abutting the Gorge Scenic area is Washugo, but they cannot expand into the Gorge Scenic area. So that in Clark County is a little bit limited. However, you're allowed to continue to farm. That is some form of economic development or opportunity. So that is what is happening in the case of areas that is in the Gorge Scenic area in Clark County.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a couple of comments, but first of all, just want to say, Mike, congratulations on making it through your first work session. Good job.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here and doing it. And also, Oliver, I don't think we've connected since you've been back, so it's nice to hear your voice and welcome back.
Yeah,
But
thank you. I said earlier that I was having technical difficulties with my laptop, and when I sign in on my desktop, the echo is too much. So I try to use my laptop. That's why you're not seeing my picture. So I'm not hiding myself, but it's technical difficulties. So thank you.
all right, well, I look forward to seeing your face when we're able to. But as far as the options, yes, support a work session after the planning commission bits. And for the public meeting, I'm supportive of it. I think it's good to have another opportunity for the public to ask questions. Knowing how little of Clark County is in the scenic area, is there direct outreach to residents of the scenic area to make sure? I know that most of the residents in the scenic area are well aware of the work of the Gorge Commission and regulations and that sort of thing, but will there be direct outreach to them to make sure they have the opportunity to connect and ask questions?
Yes, and we will do a press release tailored to folks that own property in the gorge, advising them of the public hearing, or not public, as well as public hearing, work sessions, and the open house. In the past, we have done one, Empty Guard, which appears to be in the gorge. It's Empty Guard School, which I'm sure you're familiar with. So not knowing what will happen in terms of the pandemic, we would like to do a visual, not encouraging anyone to come out and so forth, not knowing what is going to happen at this time. So, and as I mentioned earlier, we have been attending meetings at the Gorge, Mike, occasionally myself. It's all visual since the pandemic, but as I said earlier, the Gorge Commission have had at least 160 public meetings. Some of them were in person before the pandemic, and then they went visual. So I'm sure that those county residents whose properties are in the Gorge participated as well. But we will do our own part.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So if there are no other comments by counselors, Oliver, do you think you have what you need as far as the answers from the three of us that are here?
I think so. So we will go with option 1 and 2, our normal project website, Planning Commission work session and hearings, Council work session and hearings, CEPA, and we will do a press release when we're ready to do a visual meeting and let the folks know that we are updating our code to be consistent with the management plan. And then we will have a work session with Council just to brief you after the Planning Commission hearings.
Okay, perfect. And we were kind of all chatting before we started recording, commenting on the photograph of the gorge. And, you know, I just want to amplify what Karen said, that the public is concerned about these issues, but we are too. The gorge, I mean, it is one of among the most very beautiful places I've ever been in the world. It's a precious, precious area and an asset to all of us. And even though we only have a small 8,000 acres portion of it, we are very concerned as a council. And so in addition to the public, I think we all share the beauty of the gorge and want to protect it. So thank you for this great work. Michael, thank you for your presentation. Look forward to meeting you in person.
You're welcome.
Thank you, councillors.